Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9 FM. I'm Paul Kretschmer. I have a guest on the phone line today to talk about the election of 2020 and the impact of the death of Supreme Court Associate Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg to the election and results.
Yes, John Paulsen with Family Policy Alliance.
And what, generally speaking, does the Alliance do within the marketplace of ideas then, sir?
We work at the state level especially, but also at the federal level to advance pro-family policy, particularly in the areas of life, religious freedom, and advancing the family in a variety of ways. And we do that through political work. We do that through advocacy at the Capitol, both state and federal. And then we also help train and advance statesmen who support those values.
I see your title is Mobilization Manager. That sounds like action and effort moving forward. What kind of things could you describe to listeners just briefly that a mobilization manager would be doing that fits that description?
Oh, that's right. You've got the right action. It's work on, for one thing, elections. So this time of year is a very busy time with activating people, informing people, comparing and contrasting candidates in a variety of ways, from mailers to digital ads, telephone and email campaigns, etc. And then also during legislative sessions, activating people and helping them to make a difference by raising their voice, making their voice heard to elected officials at the state level or at the federal level.
I was just talking to a think tank representative in Hartford yesterday about how truncated the legislative session here in Connecticut was this year because of the pandemic, and whether or not they can kind of restart their engines again now when the new year begins. I would suppose that at the current time, at least, you are most busy on the national scene and the campaign that's been going on now for a while, or in a strictly virtual sense, perhaps until just the last few days between Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden.
Boy, that's right. It's been a crazy year with stops and starts to lots of state legislative sessions around the country. But absolutely, right now the focus, and for a while the focus has been on the election, both federal and state. So yes, we are working around the country on U.S. congressional, U.S. Senate elections, certainly engaged in the presidential race as well, but then also at the state level, where we really have a special niche, helping state policy organizations do their work and engaging directly in state legislative policy work and elections. So we're involved in quite a number of state legislative races around the country as well.
I would have to tell you from my observation here near Hartford that the attention here in the state has been mostly on the national level, because our governor's races and our senators' races will happen one way or the other during the next election cycle a couple of years from now. But lately, of course, with the passing of a justice on the Supreme Court, that's thrown an extra wrinkle into the mix that, in my lifetime at least, and I go back 65 years. That's how old I am. I cannot remember a wrinkle like a Supreme Court nomination situation coming up, and the incumbent actually indicating that they want to go forward with a nomination to the Senate. Unlike the last time it happened, when the president was going to leave office and wasn't looking for re-election as Mr. Trump is right now.
Right, it certainly is dramatic. It has actually happened a number of cases in years past, and you've got about 10 years on me, so I certainly don't remember any situation like this in my lifetime as well, something especially this late in the election cycle. But there actually have been a number of cases in the past where presidents put forward nominees well into the election year, and when the U.S. Senate has been held by the same party as the president, almost invariably those nominations have moved forward and been confirmed, that in that election year. In other cases where the Senate is controlled by a different party, sometimes, like happened in 2016 when we had the Scalia vacancy, that was held up until the next election, which the Senate had the right to do. So it's not unprecedented, and I think it's a proper process. There's nothing there's nothing untoward about it. But you're right. It is absolutely dramatic. It has crystallized the battle lines in this election like nothing else I could imagine.
Should we, as citizens, take what may have happened in just recent years as precedent to rule how we handle a situation going forward? Or is that merely an example of political gamesmanship where one side's done something one time to their advantage and then they speak out the next time again to their advantage, even though the situation, of course, may be reversed and one party may have been the action side the first time and maybe the responding side on the next time?
I think you're exactly right on the latter. That you can look at the quotes on both sides of this, and there is you might say pretty blatant hypocrisy, or certainly, I mean, maybe there's a more charitable way of saying it, but very much taking different positions. However, I think the big picture is that the people have spoken in 2014, 2016, 2018 to comprise the current Senate we have. The people spoke in 2016 to give us our current president, and he certainly has every right to make a nomination right up to the end of his time as president. And in fact, Ruth Bader Ginsburg herself acknowledged that just a year or so ago. She said, the rights that a president has in his third year do not go away for his fourth year. And the Senate also has the right, as the voice of the people, to make that decision on, are we going to go ahead right now, or are we going to hold off on considering that appointment or that nomination? So I think it's right to recognize that there's a lot of political gamesmanship in what has happened over the last couple of situations like this, but I think the president and the Senate have been right, within the rightful bounds of authority in doing what they've done.
In your opinion, or the opinion of your organization, perhaps, is this one of those possible moments in history where members of the Senate may make a decision by voting and then see that the people who voted in a given way end up leaving office in the general election, sort of the way that the senators who voted for the continuance of President Andrew Johnson basically ended their Senate career at the end of that term, and it ended up being what John Kennedy's book referred to as a profile and courage moment?
It could well be. There could be particularly a couple of Republican senators who are in very tough races right now who would probably prefer to not have to vote on this before the election. And on those on the losing side, if that nomination were to be confirmed, the people on the other side would be angry and more likely then to take out their ire against those senators. So I think that is very possible. And I think some argue that it could be smarter politically with the election in mind to wait on a vote until after the election.
Thank you very much for your graciousness in choosing to be available to discuss these matters at the hour of the day that we have discussed them for the benefit of the listeners here in Connecticut and Western Massachusetts. Sir, I thank you very, very sincerely for your cooperation.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Paul, and look forward to it again at some point.
Once again, my thanks to John Paulsen, the mobilization manager at the Family Policy Alliance, for being my guest on today's broadcast. For further information, call us at 860-346-1049. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of this station. I'm Paul Kretschmer on the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from WIHS.